Hello, today's guest is someone I've known for a number of years and someone many people across Sussex business community will already know. Matt Turner MBE, no less, is the founder and CEO of Creative Pod, a marketing agency that has grown from humble beginnings from Matt's bedroom. I hope that's common knowledge, actually, Matt.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
Into an award-winning business supporting organisations internationally. Now, Matt, before we get into those conversations, I'd be doing a disservice if I didn't mention dog food.
Yeah.
Alessandro may not know this, but one of the most memorable presentations I've seen you deliver involved dog food, along with a room full of business leaders trying to work out what on earth you were going to do with it. It was a very funny moment, but, you know, it was a very thought-provoking presentation you delivered as well.
Thanks, Karen.
But what really stood out for me was not just your marketing expertise, but it's your passion for helping people, you know, whether that's your mentoring support, supporting businesses, but you do so much for charity as well. And it's about creating the opportunities for others and being honest about the lessons you've learned along the way. But behind the growth, the awards and the MBE is someone who has navigated the realities of leadership. You recognize openly your blind spots, and you've built a business that looks today probably very different to the one that you started. So today we'd love to explore leadership with you, partnerships, purpose, and why some organizations succeed in turning good intentions into actions, while others perhaps struggle to bridge that gap. So Matt, welcome to the Human Advantage.
Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. So Matt, if I could take you back to that bedroom, you know, all those years ago where Creative Pod started, and in fact, perhaps it wasn't even called Creative Pod then.
It was.
It was. Oh, right.
Yeah,
wow. Yeah. What do you think would surprise that younger version of yourself most about business you've built today?
The one thing that would probably surprise me the most is that so many of the things that I had dreamt of, even before I'd started Creative Pod, it wasn't like an overnight epiphany, had then started to come true.
Oh.
Yeah. And it wasn't just one thing or two things. It was so many things, even from like as a kid, like my brother and I, you know, we would have pretend investitures in the back garden.
So where did that inspiration come? Because before we started the recording of the call, we talked about entrepreneurship. Was there somebody at school or an adult, a teacher, a youth worker that inspired you? Where did that inner passion come from?
I think there's definitely lots of people over the years that have inspired you, but I think with entrepreneurship, you're kind of born with it. Right. It's a bit like being a singer or a dancer. You know, you're born with it, and then it's polished and it's refined. And I feel like entrepreneurship is very much the same. You know, I had lots of really good teachers over the years. One in particular teacher, I was probably about 10 at the time, but she was different in her approach. She definitely understood like the creative side, and like also could see that maybe the academic side wasn't as great as the chatty side, shall we say. But she allowed me to kind of be me, I guess.
Okay.
And what was really interesting about her is that she's Gareth Southgate's mum.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so England manager Sir Gareth Southgate, his mum was my primary school teacher.
That's amazing. And she was your inspiration. Would you say she was your early inspiration then? Like you said, she picked up on your creativity.
The start of it as well. The start, because also I got to witness I got to witness how she coped when Gareth missed the penalty. Like I can still remember like the pandemonium at the school and paparazzi being at the end of the school drive, and you know. And you could, even as an 11, 12-year-old, you could feel the atmosphere in the school change because of what happened, you know. So it's interesting, yes. Just being exposed to stuff from like a really young age, I think is interesting.
So I wonder, is that about resilience? You say that you're aware that, you know, how she was coping. And when we talk about your younger version where you are now, has it been about coping, or has it been about resilience? Has it been about didn't quite get that right, pick yourself up, dust yourself off, carry on? Or
I don't think you ever get it right, do you?
oh,
Yeah, I feel
trying.
I feel like life is a bit like weightlifting. You start at 20 kilos and it's killing you, and then a couple of years later you're at 200 kilos and it's still killing you. You know, it never ever seems to get easier or less painful. And if anything, the decimal point moves with the pain as well.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think there's probably this inner chip on your shoulder where you've also had the yang to the yin, where there have been other people on that journey who said, well, you'll never do that, or you'll never achieve that, or you'll never become this, or, you know, people like us never do that. So then you have this, well, I'll prove you wrong type attitude. And that's probably more likely of my personality because it still happens today.
Yeah. Well, look, I'm sure you've proved a lot of people wrong. You know,
Definitely.
winning awards, MBE, and no
Yeah.
doubt you're already on a journey to achieve the next best thing, knowing you, Matt.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? Sometimes you have to be careful what you wish for as well. That's the other thing. You know, often, you know, to everything that's great comes at a price.
Yeah.
There's
Well,
always a price.
we had an interesting podcast earlier today, and I was given a diamond, Matt. So, you know, you say about wishing things and everything. I was quite happy with that diamond.
What are you going to do with it?
It was a playing card diamond. Just for
okay.
So Matt, you describe when we prepare like the interview that Creative Pod as standing, for example, for honesty, creativity, and having fun.
Yeah.
They are simple values, but often very, very difficult to maintain as business grow. How do you stop them becoming just a word on a wall?
I think, you know, the simple values, but they're the simple things that are constantly trying to be ironed out of our DNA and our society. You know, you can't be honest anymore, because if you're honest, you're rude and you're opinionated and you're not caring and sympathetic of somebody else's feelings. But if it's the truth, it's the truth. You know, you can't have fun because you've got to be serious. And if you're having fun, then you're not doing this, and this. And, you know, it changes perception. So by having those very, very simple kind of pillars as your framework, as long as you stay true to them, and the people that you have surrounding you hold you accountable to them as well, then you can, I think, extrapolate out that kind of mindset and sort of honesty across your team. Definitely, I think it's the sort of thing that people will that people initially dislike of you, but it's ultimately the thing that people end up respecting of you.
So would you say that, for example, if honesty, creativity, and having fun are my 3 core pillars, we can use as a business owner, for example, for as a North Star for ourselves, but also for our team, something like that?
Definitely, 100%. Because you think about your team, like they spend more time with you than they do their own wives and husbands and children and stuff like that. And the thing is that, like in a marriage, if it's not fun and honest and creative, you know, that person ends up getting a new job. And as a business owner, you don't want that to happen with your staff force. You want them to grow with you. You want their lives to flourish with yours. It's, you know, it's just as much as about me as it is about them. But some people, that culture isn't right for them. You know, I always say to anyone who joins us that has kind of coming from a big, sexy, sparkly corporate background and a really kind of executive CV, I sort of say to them, you know, you need to be aware that for the last 10 years you've been singing on a cruise ship, and now you're about to start singing on a pirate ship. And you might sing the same songs, but it's in a very, very different setting. And some people aren't prepared for that in the world of entrepreneurship. I don't think it's easy working for someone who's entrepreneurial. Just like I don't think it's easy working for someone who's indecisive and won't make decisions and is a bit flat and boring.
Absolutely. In fact, this morning when we were having like another interview, they said if you're not true, sometimes you can also try to fake maybe honesty, creativity, having fun, but the other person really, really perceive. I wrote like 2 books, and one is called Meta Marketing. And the truth, which is one of the 4 layers, is about if you want to maybe influence another person, you need to be honest with yourself. So if there is an incongruence between yourself, other people can really perceive it. You might be the most knowledgeable person, have the best product or service, but if you are trying to fabricate honesty, creativity, and fun, the other person much prefer to invest more money with another company, another person, because they feel you are not like a genuine person. So this really, really resonated with that.
Yeah, we're animals at the end of the day, and there's a reason why your gut doesn't have an algorithm. It's making chemicals, and when that's telling you something, listen to it. Like, listen to what it's telling you, even if everything in front of you is telling you the complete opposite. Your gut is telling you that for a reason, and I don't think there's ever been a time where your gut's ever wrong.
Absolutely. So again, like during the like prep for this interview, you use a very, very catching sentence for me. Try to fly the airplane and serve the peanuts. So what was happening at the point in your maybe journey, and what finally convinced you that something needed to change?
I think every business owner goes through a phase, often more than once, where they are flying the airplane and serving the peanuts. Because the thing is that a lot of businesses come out or are sparked out of one individual who's really good at doing something, who's excellent at their particular thing, and they're sick and tired of working with dickheads. So they go, right, I'll go and start my own thing. But I won't call myself a freelancer, because freelancers only charge £25 an hour. And I'll call myself an agency and I can charge £100 an hour. And I'll go and do what I'm really good at doing and people will pay me for it. And then actually you realize very quickly that the doing of the work is a very, very, very small fraction of what that whole exercise and piece looks like. So then you end up having to do lots of other roles that you probably shouldn't be doing, but you don't have the choice or the resource or the financial luxury to be able to afford for other people to do those. So when you go and do one, it's a bit like Rodney and Del Boy chandeliers. When you go and fix this one breaks. When you go and fix this one breaks. And it's very much like that, I think, when you're growing and scaling a startup. And there are times and situations that will happen in your journey where you might have to go back to the shop floor. But the nice things about those periods is they should be liberating, because you should know how long you're going back to the shop floor for. If it's 3 months, if it's someone's maternity and it's 12 months, you know what that period looks like. If, however, it is open-ending, then you're in trouble, because it's not sustainable. You can't do it.
I think the shop floor is an interesting space, because
I quite enjoy it, going back to the shop floor.
I make it my point that every now and then I am part of our service delivery, because you get a real proper insight as to what's happening. And it allows you, or personally for me, it allows me to really talk confidently about what's happening on the ground. Because, you know, we can all look at a piece of art and all 3 of us would look at it and interpret it in
It's subjective
way. Yeah. So I think going to the shop floor every now and then is an important thing. Clearly, say within a time frame, but
how many people that own restaurants don't eat in their own restaurants? You know, a friend of mine, he owns a very posh restaurant, and his tasting menu is quite a few hours to get through, but it's amazing. It's superb. And, he asked me how was the experience. Food was great, stuff was great, everything was superb. I said, but those seats in the dining room, they make your arse ache. Oh my God, they're the worst seats ever. I was like, have you ever sat in that seat for 3 hours? He was like, never. And literally about 6 months later, I went back and he had changed all of the furniture in the dining room.
Brilliant. Yeah.
So it's also listening as well to what a customer feeds back and says. You know, I often call it the dirty coffee cup. So like, you could go on an amazing holiday, have the incredible time of your life, and every time you walk into the restaurant, you see a dirty coffee cup. That's the one thing you're going to tell everyone. That's the one thing you're going to remember.
Yeah.
It's like having a wonky table at dinner. It's so annoying.
Yeah.
But it's not the captain's job to worry about the dirty coffee cup. There are other people who should be doing that.
However, we did have an interview where we talked about CEO roles, and it was we decided it was called Chief Everything Officer. You know, sometimes you've got to get your hands mucky as well, but yeah, clearly everyone has a role to play, don't they? So,
Yeah.
Matt, you touched earlier on kind of values. You know, one of the things we often see is organizations publicly talking about purpose, values, and social responsibility, but sometimes struggling to translate those into everyday decisions. So from your experience, what separates those organizations that genuinely live by their values from those that simply communicate it? And I guess this plays an important role in your marketing world in which you operate in.
You know what? I think it's down to authenticness. That's probably the thing. So, like, for instance, I'll give you an example, right? Take a petrochemical company, and then all of a sudden they announce that they're going to do this global penguin cleaning program, and they're going to clean the rivers, and they're going to do this, and they're going to do that. We've become such a cynical society that we automatically go, yeah, but that's because you chuck a load of junk in. You know, if Southern Water did one positive thing for the environment, we'd all know it's because they're feeling guilty, or because somebody's fined, or somebody's made them to, they've had to do it. So there's no sincerity that comes with it. And that social good does not outweigh the social bad that company has done. All it does is put lipstick on a pig. It just masks their naughty past and the things that they've done. And it's and the interesting thing, as well as a society, it's amazing how quickly we forget. Quickly we forget certain people, certain situations, certain things, because time moves on so quickly.
It does. And what would they say? Today's news is tomorrow's fish shop paper or whatever.
Yeah.
And
for me, it's those partnerships and that activation and activity and relationships that happen, that almost happen by mistake, or because somebody started to do something happened, it took them down a certain road, and all of a sudden, by doing what they did, made great business sense, but also great social sense. I always think of the guy that started Timpson's. You know, did he start that business going, okay, so we're going to work with people in prison, we're going to do it this way, and do you know what I mean? Or did it start with, it's a low cost job and it's a great way to get into retail and all the rest of it? Like, how did that start and to where it ended up, and then the social good that it's done off the back of it is massive, isn't it? So
relationships that happen by mistake, then I'm curious to kind of expand on that a bit. Is that, we spoke before the call, we talk about, empathic and people.
It's serendipitous.
People. Yeah. Is it just that you click with someone? Is it because, we had an interesting interview where they said, the charities I decide to work is because I feel the passion, I see the passion, they're committed, they're doers? Or is it, I don't know, what is it, Matt? What do you think?
I think there's two types.
Supporter of charities.
Yeah, I think there's two types. There's the type where you're introduced to somebody, your matchmate. That's quite interesting, because the person that's done it has basically done it on energy and chemistry. And the way they feel with you is exactly the same as the way they feel with somebody else.
Okay.
And automatically makes them think, you two should talk to each other.
Right.
And sometimes it's good and sometimes it's not. It's potluck. And then the other ones are that serendipitous. You're invited to a dinner. You really didn't want to go. It's pouring with rain. Do you know what I mean? It's the third dinner of the week. And you end up dragging yourself out and going. Or the 7 a.m. breakfast.
Yeah.
And then you're sat next to somebody amazing. You would have never met that person or had that opportunity if you hadn't dragged yourself out of bed or dragged yourself into London or wherever it may be. And And then there are other times where you should have been sat there, and now all of a sudden you're sat there, and then you meet. Do you know what I mean? I think the key is to always be like open-minded, and who you're talking to. Like, everybody's got a story, everyone's got a journey, and so everybody knows someone better than you.
Beautiful. And this links to my next question. So when people talk about your impact, in particular, I'm very interested as Matt, not like the creative pod.
Yeah.
You said that they often miss the people you mentor. So why do you think some of the most important forms of impact are often the hardest to see or measure?
Because it takes time. It takes time. That's the biggest thing. You know, no one becomes like an overnight success. Like, it takes 20 years to be an overnight success. And to get through that, you go through a lot of pain. You go through highs, you go through lows. And like the easiest way to kind of illustrate that is, let's say, with a personal trainer. They start with that relationship with their customer, and that customer's, let's say, overweight. And over a consistent and prolonged and sustainable period of time, you see that improvement, you see that journey, you see that impact. And you've set a goal, you've set a target, and you're going for it. And it doesn't matter whether that's weight loss, profit and loss, you know, business objectives, aspirations. The fact that you've set a goal, you've got a plan, and you're going to go for it. That's part of that journey. But also, like, when it comes to the mentoring piece, if someone is engaging with me and hiring me to tell them how wonderful they are, they've hired the wrong person. You know, I'm there to polish you. I'm there to make you accountable. I'm there to make you better. I'm the conscious on your shoulder. Like whenever any of my rich mates, my super successful mates, they sell their businesses for 50 million, 100 million, whatever. And then a year later, they say to me, "Oh, I'm going to go again." I ask every single one the same question. And I ask them, how do you know that you've not already had your Thriller album? And it makes them think, you know, because as an entrepreneur, you always think you can do better. You know, you can always see you can get higher and higher, but you never really know if you've hit your ceiling.
But you need to have an open mindset, as you mentioned, maybe a few years ago. Because
you've got to remember you're already smashing it. So that last bit of growth is far less than the drop. So is it worth it? Don't know.
Let's talk about that commercial success then. So, you know, Matt, you've worked with organizations of every shape and size, you know, and looking back, where do you think most leaders often get the balance wrong between commercial success and creating that wider social value? Is it something that's embedded from the outset, or does the business get really good and successful and then that comes along? What does that look like?
That's a good question. You know what? I think a lot of it is down to the people you surround yourself with. Like, I see a lot of successful people like get to a certain level, and then the social cycle's changed, and then they're doing things that they shouldn't be doing because it's cool to do it in that environment, and all of a sudden the seams start getting unpicked. And for me, it comes down to that accountability piece. You need to have people around you that call you out on your shit. You know, you've got to have those people around you, and you, even as much as you hate it, you have to respect it and value it and appreciate it. That's really, really important.
I got a feeling, Matt, that you're always pretty grounded though.
Yeah.
So, you know, I can't imagine you get called out very often. Well, maybe, as we said later, if you don't cut the lawn, you'll be in trouble with the wife. But
absolutely, absolutely.
But yeah, I can't. You know, there's something very cool about you. Very grounded. You know, you're very open, honest about your roots, where you started, and you know, you're still telling us. You know, it's hard. You know, the weightlifting is hard.
It is hard, and the responsibility of what you've achieved and the journey you've had, that comes with the price as well. I think you have to be grounded because the thing is, right, you've got to realize, doesn't matter how good you are, at some point you're going to fall flat on your face. And if you're not grounded, no one's going to help you up.
Mm.
Everyone's like a dick when they've got to get up on their own. But if you're great, loads of people help you up, and within seconds, no one's even realised you've fallen on your face.
Mm. Mm.
And I guess it's those kind of nuggets of wisdom that if you didn't have from an early age, you know, those types of people around you instilling that kind of work ethic and karma and doing a good deed and all those sort of things, it starts when you're really, really young. Like, and I can sit in my own children, you know, like I'll give you an example. I was stuck in traffic the other day. My son's 10 and he hates litter. Like, he absolutely hates litter. He asked for a litter picker at Christmas, and we were stuck in traffic, and he told me to pull the car over, and I asked him why, and he said, because we could pick all that litter up. And I think I must have been in an absolutely foul mood that afternoon. So I decided to lecture him on taxation and how much taxation we pay personally with the business and what it's meant to go towards, and the car tax and this tax, honestly. And after I'd finished my rant and we'd clearly driven off up the road, he turned around and he said, Dad, just because you pay a lot of tax doesn't mean you can't help. And it really resonated with me. Like, it really resonated with me.
Yeah. I think you've got a strong head on young shoulders there, Matt.
I think, well, he already told me that he's plans to be the CEO of the business.
Wow.
And
Wow.
and he said that he said, but he said, I need to let you know though, I'm only working 3 hours a day. And I said to him, well,
we've got it all wrong, Matt. I think we've got it all wrong, haven't we?
I think we do, actually,
Right.
because I said to him, like, you've got to understand, to like be the CEO of a company, especially when you've got staff. He said, like, I said to him, like, it takes more than 3 hours a day to do that role. And he said, not for him, it doesn't. And when I pushed him further on it, I said to him, what makes you think you could do the CEO role in 3 hours a day? His response was, because I'm only going to do the difficult jobs.
You know what? He sounds like a
he should have his own podcast. So he'd worked out at the age of 10 that if you just did the difficult jobs, everybody else can pick up the easy stuff. And when I look at my days, you know, I probably spend 3 hours a day doing difficult stuff, and I probably spend another 8 hours a day doing the fun stuff.
I wonder how much observation he's had of you when you work from home, you know, to kind of mirror that, or
probably quite a lot.
Conclusion.
Because like all the charity black ties, the ones that are suitable, he comes along and puts his tuxedo on and shakes people's hands and asks them who does their marketing, and you know, so those personal skills that, you know, the formalness of education and things like that can't give you that human piece. That for me, what's really, really important. It's that human piece, holding yourself, having a conversation, and you know.
You know, I'm passionate about young people in the charity sector anyway, and obviously as CEO of Electric Storm Youth, you know, championing young people is absolutely my passion. So I tell you what, I'd love to interview, you know, on the podcast, Dad's Consent, because giving him a voice, he is our future leader. He is going to, you know, be part of our communities, the next generation of families that we support. You know, he should have a voice, and he's clearly got a lot to say. So, you know,
he sometimes gets in trouble for it as well. Yeah, he's a bit of a character. Yeah.
Bit like his dad.
Yeah, a little bit. Apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking about like the empathy, something related to even what we were discussing at the very beginning. So you said a relationship feels different when somebody remember the name of your wife.
Yeah.
What does that tell us about the difference between I know who you are and I know what matters to you?
It shows that they care. That's the difference. It shows that they genuinely care. So like, and so for me, and I guess it's because I started so young. You got to remember, like when I started, I'd walk into a room and people would say, I've got shoes older than you. You know, it was almost a rarity to have a young business person in the room back then. It was a different landscape. So it's interesting, isn't it, from that perspective? You have to kind of like go on that journey. you've kind of got to experience it from that perspective. Remind me of the beginning of the question.
Yes. So you said that a relationship feels different when somebody remembers, for example, the name of your wife.
So for instance, I have this thing where I go out of my way to remember. Normally it'll be 2 to 3 things. One, what football team they support. That's like the global language of the world. No matter where you go in the world, football will be the one thing that will either get you into a heated discussion or get you out of a heated discussion. The name of someone's pet is another one. Most people love their pets more than they love their spouse. So remembering their pet is another good touch point. Whether they've got children or not, that's another good touch point, because it means that you've got familiarity because you're going through the pain points, or one of you's already been through them. And so whenever you can create common connections with people and they'd be like genuinely interested, that for me is like really, really important. And remembering someone's partner, it's just as much showing them respect as it is their partner, because I know what will happen, because it happens to me. Where someone will meet your wife, they've met them 3 times, they've sat next to them for 4 hours at a dinner, and then 2 months later they'll bump into them at an event and they go, "Oh, it's lovely to finally meet you." And it's like, are you being a dick, or have you had a lobotomy? It's one or the other. And it's just unnecessary. So I think also by making more of a fuss of somebody's spouse is another good thing to do, because when they're in the car home, the spouse will say to the other half, "You should be working with that person. They're a really decent person." And I believe, honestly, I believe that probably 80% of everything on this planet is bought, influenced, or purchased by a woman. Everything. But I don't think I buy anything without a woman's opinion, actually. Maybe petrol. I think petrol's the only thing I buy without a woman's opinion. Like clothes, I would never buy clothes without my wife's opinion. A car, watch. Even for dinner.
Matt, I hope you encourage her to listen to this podcast.
She knows, yeah. Women rule the world. Women rule the world. That's the way it works.
They say, don't they? Behind every good man, there's a good woman, Matt.
Sometimes there's 2.
Another conversation.
Oh dear. That's funny.
So, Matt, just kind of starting to bring this to a close, because we could talk forever. What advice would you give leaders who generally want partnerships? And we're talking about partnerships, aren't we? What advice would you generally give leaders who want to create, value, for both sides, rather than just becoming a transaction? Because often we hear people say, "Oh, that's a tick box, I've sponsored them or I've worked with them." How do we make it, that economic pound? It's a circular economy. We're all working in partnership for the good of everybody. Do you know what I mean? How do we make that happen?
I think leaders need to realize there's a difference between delegating and abdicating.
Okay.
Can you tell them more about that? I'm very interested.
Well, it's okay to delegate certain things that are task driven, that are goal driven. But if something's emotionally driven, you can't abdicate that. It's like outsourcing your dating, or making somebody else do your couch to 10K. It's like, do you know what I mean? Like, if somebody else went and did your driving test for you, it doesn't mean you can now drive. And
but it's like AI, isn't it? If we talk about AI, schools have got to the stage where they can't compete with AI. They just said, fine, if you use it, but actually when it comes to your exam, you've got to know the content. You've got to be able to...
That's because schools are 50 years behind society. Yeah. And they were designed for the Industrial Revolution, when we all sat in lines and were indoctrinated with the same thing, because information wasn't at our fingertips. Education should be using AI firsthand, but they should be using it in a way where it's practical. Like I look at AI a bit like a microwave. It didn't replace an oven. There are still chefs. But if you want something really hot or defrosted really quickly, it's the perfect thing in the kitchen for it. the role in the ecosystem for sure. You know, when Henry and Ford invented the motor car, blacksmiths became mechanics, and people still needed blacksmiths, but maybe just not as many. And you know, where we might lose 100 million jobs because of AI, we'll gain 200 million jobs at the other end.
Yeah.
I hope those jobs are what humans are good at, and there's not 200 million people, you know, dusting off robots. Like, it'll be interesting to see where it goes. But it's exciting. It's like the Industrial Revolution. It's like the invention of the aeroplane. It's one of those amazing pivotal things. And in the next 100 years, there'll be a generation that will be people living in space and doing things that we could never even have imagined.
Yeah.
Hollywood kind of imaginations. But yeah, I think the difference, if somebody wants to achieve that on the partnership side, you can't abdicate partner. You can't outsource it. You got to be in it. You got to own it. You got to feel it. It's got to be part of your DNA, because if it's not, then it's fake, and you'll get caught and you'll get busted, and it's just not the way forward. If that's too much aggro, don't bother doing it.
Yeah. So I'm intrigued in terms of that value. What are you looking for when you partner with, you know, let's say a charity? What are you seeing that becomes, this is a partnership? What are the ingredients, shall we say, that you're looking for?
I look at the other person and think to myself, could I still go for a beer with you if you really cocked up?
Yeah.
And if the answer is yes, it'll be all right. But if you can't go for a beer with someone when the chips are down, then it's never going to work, because it's perfect. It's never going to be smooth sailing, you know. So I always look for that. You know, if the shit hits the fan, are we still going to be friends? And if the answer yes is, then we're good to go. But it's also, I think most people have to understand, is a partnership isn't transactional. It's not a commodity. And if anything, it's a game of tennis, and the ball keeps going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. That's how it should be. And if that's not what it looks like, then it's not a partnership. I'm not interested.
No, it's got to benefit both parties, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Yeah.
So before we come to a conclusion, I usually share my takeaway from a conversation with you. There are so many. I wrote a lot of them, but let me try to pick the only three. The one is what you have just shared in terms of, if I need to choose maybe a partner, a business partner, or create a partnership collaboration using my intuition. Would I spend the time with the person? So intuition is something really, really important, that many times we don't listen our intuition, and we just look at the person, what the person said, rather than try to really use our gut feeling to make a decision. And this, I think, is really important, in particular now with the AI automation. The other one is surrounding yourself with people that they can help you to make you accountable, but also to grow in the way that you want to grow. And sometimes you also need to increase the number of no, rather than just accepting any kind of opportunity. And the other one was in terms of, so with Karen, when we help some of the businesses, the other day with the step number 2 in terms of storytelling, many people used to say, this is what we do, rather from their point of view, rather than from the point of view of a recipient. And what you mentioned 2 or 3 times is listening. What I say, empathic marketing, put yourself in the shoes of the other person. If I need to remember 3 things about the other person, I need to listen. Many people instead of talk without listening the other person. And this is really, really important. And again, the reason why we set the human advantage is to use maybe your intuition, which is unique to you, listen the other person, and also surround yourself with people that they can help you to move to the next stage, rather than stay at the same level.
Yeah, great. I totally agree with you.
What do you think, Karen?
I think, Matt, as I said at the start, you bring so much wisdom and life learning that would be valuable to so many people. And just genuinely want to thank you for being, interviewed by us today. How have you found your experience of being on the Human Advantage?
Yeah, good. It's been different because the thing is, like, when you're interviewed, I would say 8 out of 10 interviews ask the same question.
Right.
All of them ask the same questions. So it's a bit like, so doing podcasts is a bit like, okay, I'm going to sing Billie Jean, then I'll do Man in the Mirror, then I'll go into Thriller, I'll do, do you know what I mean? Like, everyone says, how did you start? What was your journey? What's your biggest height? What's your biggest lows? What's your biggest lesson learned? What's the best thing that's ever happened to you? What would you have told your younger self? Every single one is the same. So when they're a little bit sort of different or edgier, then you sort of get a different perspective. And I guess I've had the privilege of watching thousands of people play Monopoly differently, so you end up seeing a lot in lots of different countries, and then stuff happens, doesn't it? Like, we had a member of staff die, and there's been so many things, good and bad, that have happened. That if someone had said to you, if you run a business, these are the things you will have to deal with that are amazing, and these are the things that you have to deal with that are absolutely soul destroying and horrendously bad, and you're going to need to be a therapist, a money advisor, a gynecologist, and you're going to need to be a boss and an employer and a mental health nurse and a public speaker and a good dad. And you know what I mean? All of a sudden you'll be like, bro, this is really hard work. I'm going to go and get a job, get 25 days holiday, a decent pension, and no one, no one is ever realistic or honest in terms of what you actually have to deal with on that day-to-day of running a business. And that's before you made any money. So it's interesting.
Well, it's good. I'm so pleased that you found it good, you found it different, you found it a bit edgy, and we hopefully threw in some very different questions that you weren't expecting.
Yeah, definitely.
Actually might have hopefully been a bit more thought-provoking, but also, as we said, educational, but interesting to our listeners as well.
100%. Greatly appreciated. Always nice to see, Karen.
Thank
and
you.
Nice to meet you too, as well, as Alessandro. I know that was the first time we met, so yeah.
Brilliant. So before we finish, is there any particular partnership you are looking for, or someone would be curious to meet within the Human Advantage ecosystem?
You know what? I'm always interested in just meeting good people who want to do good things, who have got a bit of aspiration behind them, have hopefully got a little bit of money behind them, and they just want to do good things. Especially if marketing's their Achilles heel, it's always a bit of a bugbear for people. And I think with the marketing landscape, it's certainly at the moment, it's a bit of a quagmire of AI and Molly's, Pippers and Polly's, and everything else in between. So if anyone needs help with their marketing or wants to just sort of chew the cud or have some, creative ideas, I'm always available.
I went to an interesting meeting the other day where there were some designers there, Matt, saying, we're seeing a change in the landscape of people knocking on our door wanting support with design creative work. But on the flip side, they're seeing people come with, we've had this created on AI. Can you actually do the finishing touches? Because it's not quite where it needs to be.
Yeah.
So, there's an example of what we touched on. The use of the microwave to reheat, defrost. There's still the need, there's still the value in that real person doing the creativity with agencies such as yourself.
Yeah. And the key to that, from the human perspective, is don't be pretentious. It's like, there are some Michelin star chefs, if somebody asked for their steak to be well done, they would kick them out of the restaurant. And you're trying to run a business. If the client wants it well done, obliterate it. Absolutely obliterate it. Sometimes you've got to give the client what they want.
Yeah.
Because they're the ones paying. It's funny old world at times.
Yeah, I think that came out in the interview today.
Mm-hmm.
Listen to your client. You talked about your friend in the restaurant and chairs. They took on board that. They've made
listen to your client.
a better experience. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. It's interesting that like there was that video recently. The CEO of McDonald's refused to eat McDonald's. Yeah, he literally and that kind of says it. Says it all really.
Right. Well, anyway, we'll finish on eating dog food instead, Matt.
There you go. Be cat food.
You never told that story. I'll let you tell that story when you meet people. But it was brilliant, and you've been brilliant today. Thank you so much, Matt.
Thanks for having me. Thank you very much.